Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is June 9th, and right now we are looking at the visible satellite imagery. Check out that stratus layer across a lot of the Oregon coast here this morning, but once you get away from the coastal regions, we have some severe clear across Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and most portions of southern and central British Columbia. But look off across portions of Alberta, a lot of smoke out there. You notice that, and you can kind of see all that smoke, kind of mainly staying east of the Rocky Mountains for now. That's a good thing here if you live in the Pacific Northwest here, but it doesn't bode well for the summertime. Hopefully these fires aren't going to be burning when we start to get some more offshore flow. That can bring that smoke down into our region. But as you can see, we're in store for another very warm day for most areas here across the region, but we do have some big pattern changes coming as we go through the extended forecast. I'll show you the latest on that here in a moment. Looking at lightning strikes the last 24 hours, a few thunderstorms across the portions of Idaho there. Nothing for Washington, Oregon, or British Columbia, or western Montana for that matter. If you want to help support the channel, Patreon is a good way to do it. It's also a good way to get my daily updates here. I'll email them to you or send you a link there as well. And you can send me your weather images by going to the community tab. It is free to sign up. There is a public way to do so, and you can just go to that and do it if you want. So taking a look here at today, you can see these thunderstorms creeping into Oregon and portions of Idaho. This is the day one outlook. Look at day two, though. We got a marginal risk for some wind and some hail. Southern Oregon Cascades, eastern Oregon, portions of western Montana. And day three, a little bit larger there, including some portions of extreme eastern Oregon, Idaho, Montana as well. I'll show you the latest on that here in a moment. Looking at the 500 millibar height. So this is the ridge giving us our warmth right now. You can clearly see it. There's somewhat of a trough out here over the Pacific Ocean. But yeah, the ridge is dominating the weather from much of the west coast of North America. Put that into motion here, and you see how that ridge starts to shrink back, flatten out, and eventually this trough comes rolling in here. Mossbacks rejoice because it looks like we have some extended troughing as we go through the mid portion of June. It wants to hang around for a bit in some of the models here. We're going to be visiting that on a daily basis to see what kind of changes are in store, of course, because we're looking off into the future here. It's tough to predict the future. Taking a look, though, you can see this trough has been showing up as you've been watching the channel over the last few days. It's been pretty persistent, and this goes through about Saturday night through this upcoming weekend. So if we look at precipitation, this is for today. You can kind of see those thunderstorms trying to pop off again across some areas of southern Oregon, portions of Idaho. We go on in through Tuesday. That coverage will increase a little bit here, and some of these thunderstorms could start to become strong as we go through tomorrow afternoon. See western Montana, portions of the Rocky Mountains, Idaho especially, and again southeast Oregon. Then we go through Wednesday, yet again some thunderstorm activity kind of crawling off to the east there across Idaho, Montana, Yellowstone, Wyoming, portions of Utah as well. But you see there's not much precipitation coming up here for the next few days for Vancouver, BC, Seattle, Willamette Valley, Puget Sound area. But as we scroll off a little bit further, you can kind of see some additional precipitation trying to roll down in here. You see this low pressure center here. They're generally very weak at this time of year, and that could be kicking off some afternoon thunderstorms for some of the areas here, and we'll see just what this is going to do. It's definitely going to cool us down, but how much precipitation is it actually going to bring? Well, that's a good question. Now, taking a look at 700 millibars, about 10,000 feet. This is about, the warm air aloft here that's giving us our nice warm days, but as you see, as we go through Tuesday, Wednesday, the changes start to come. Look at that cooler air start to move in here as we go towards the later portion of the weekend, towards the weekend here. I always like to show these visual demonstrations of what exactly is going on above us and why things are cooling off. You get a little bit of a little bit of an upper level low is going to be visiting us here and kind of definitely changing things up. So I hope you enjoyed the heat while it lasts here, or you're enjoying these last couple of days, because this is definitely going to cool down here as we go towards the end of the week. Now, looking at 15-day precipitation anomaly, though, but you see across some of the higher terrain of British Columbia, some of Alberta here, and maybe some portions of Montana, a little bit of above average signal there, but a below normal signal here for still the Pacific Northwest. The trough is not showing up yet, is producing a lot of precipitation with it. Now, temperatures, this is daily 2-meter max. This is Monday, June 9th. Today, look at, again, another very warm day, mid-90s out there for Portland. I think Portland set a record yesterday at 96 degrees there, a daily record high. Look at this, 105, 104 for the Tri-Cities. Yakima, 102 degrees, very warm temperatures way up into the Okanagan River Valley. You're talking about maybe up towards 100 degrees for the Canada, Washington border, some mid-80s up into the Fraser River Valley. Vancouver Island, if you get right towards the coastal areas, you're still doing pretty nice for the Washington and the Oregon coast. But once you get inland, man, you're going to have a shock to the system if you're driving from the Oregon coast into the Willamette Valley. And same thing for east portions as well. So we go through, this is tomorrow, Tuesday. Still pretty warm here for Seattle and still 100 plus for some areas east of the mountains. And then we go to Wednesday. We start to cool things down gradually as we go. There's Thursday, 71 for Seattle. And then we go to Friday the 13th. Look at that, only 70 degrees for Seattle or so. Still, nice, seasonably warm there. Not even seasonably warm, but, relatively speaking, you're still pretty warm there east of the mountains, especially according when you compare that to the west side. Now you go on through Saturday, Sunday, and kind of see how we keep these temperatures suppressed as we go through the extended forecast. We're really going to get away from these lofty temperatures that we are experiencing right now as we go through this weekend and possibly on in towards next week. So if we take a look at the European ensemble, again, this is the gold standard here for 500 millibar heights and just where these troughs are going to be positioned. And you can see the trough, good model agreement that it is coming as we go through this weekend. More on that here actually starting in a moment. That is the same thing. We're going to take a look at the temperatures there though briefly before we do that, and you can kind of see Seattle, we cool things down and it just remains that way. This is the European ensemble members here, and you can kind of see we got another couple warm days coming up there, and then the gradual cool down, and we stay suppressed as we go through the mid and maybe some of the later portions of June. Same thing for Spokane. You can see that cool down there. It's fairly gradual, but by the time we get towards Friday, we're going to be probably 20 degrees colder for some areas of eastern Washington. Same thing for Portland, lofty temperatures up into the 90s, and look at this, showing some upper 60s here by the time we get towards the end of the week. Now, if we take a wider view at things here, there's Alaska, there's Pacific Northwest right there, the European Artificial Intelligence last night trend, 500 millibars. As we scroll towards the weekend, there goes that trough. And, that's the opposite of a big ridge. So that's why we're going to cool down here as we go through the extended forecast. This polar lobe is going to be visiting here. The Gulf of Alaska trough is going to remain active. And it shows us all the way out through the 21st of June. Let's continue to scroll out there. And you see the troughing set up across Western Canada, Alberta, all the way down the west coast of North America as we continue on into the later portion of June. We'll see if this is going to switch up here. But that's a pretty good troughing signal there as we go on in towards the later portion of June. And now if we take a look at the artificial intelligence 500 millibar heights and just how that is according to the anomaly this time of year, you can clearly see the trough kind of setting up shop here. Western Canada, Gulf of Alaska keeps things on the cool side here for the region as we go on into the second half of June. Now, still on top of all that, we're looking off into the 46-day extended forecast European weeklies, and you still see this below normal signal as we go on into the later portion of July. So even though you have the troughing around, it still does not mean a lot of precipitation necessarily at this time of year. Some isolated areas will get some at times, but overall the signal is still very dire as far as precipitation amounts is concerned. And we got the drought monitor here, this Washington, Oregon, Idaho. You see there is some moderate drought for all three states, or some abnormally dry in the light yellow, but no severe drought right now until you get out across portions of western Montana. And we don't have any extreme or exceptional drought. But again, if we go through a summer of below normal precipitation, that's obviously going to change, and we'll be watching that as we do. This drought monitor gets updated every Thursday, so we'll make sure to revisit that then. Now, 6 to 10 day, kind of that below normal signal starting to show up as we get towards the June 14th through 18th time period. Above normal here across a lot of the central portions of the country, some of the Intermountain West even. And then that above normal signal shows up there, but that again is at odds with what the European is showing at this time frame. I think they're just kind of broad brushing this. The troughing is out there, so they kind of assume that we're going to be above normal here, but that may not necessarily be the case. And if we take a look at total precipitation in inches on the artificial intelligence model as of last night, I scroll out all the way through 15 days. Let me back that up a little bit more. We're going to back up to about 200 hours. There is some kind of precipitation signal starting to show up a bit there, right around the 200-hour mark. So a little bit too far out to get concerned with as of right now. But if we go out through 15 days, you can kind of see how the precipitation totals really don't amount to that much over a 15-day period. Even with all that troughing around, most of that precipitation is still across British Columbia, Alberta, and some of it does try to get down at times. We'll see how that goes, and we'll be watching those systems one by one anyway. And one more last look here at the infrared satellite imagery. Notice the smoke doesn't show up too much there, and you have a hard time viewing some of the low clouds across the coastal areas as well. But again, another couple nice warm days here across the region. Heat lovers rejoice because the mossbacks are going to get their turn here as we go through the end of the week and possibly on in towards the foreseeable future as we go towards the second half of June. But yeah, hopefully we can bring brings some precipitation along with it. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. Otherwise, click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.